Hello, Vincent.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Claire, you don't listen to me, so I always have to do this on my own. I found that PDF. I sent you that article I wrote on Bruno's blog, m.blogspot.com, about it was What's Wrong with Islamic Economics was the title of the article. And in there, there's a link to a PDF of all the economic laws of the Quran listed, and you refuse to list any laws or make any kind of compendium of laws. But I looked through it, and I mean, the only problems with them. First of all, this is not very comprehensive stuff. This is like, I mean, it's socialism, giving to orphans and widows, and distributing war beauty, and things like that, and charity, and these kinds of things. But it's not like a robust, and weights and measures, and not stealing and keeping your contracts. Like, this is nothing you need God to teach you about. I mean, this is like, I don't need I don't need a supernatural revelation to explain these things to me. But the problems are no usury, and then the other thing is just the stupid inheritance laws. Like, it just, what if you don't want to give your mother 1/6? What if you want to give her 100%? What if you have a daughter and a son, and you want to give the daughter 90% and the 10% because he's a lazy guy? I mean, there's just like, who made up these percentages, and why are you being forced to divvy up your property in all these different ways? It doesn't make sense. I think most people in the West would say, I have the right not to give my sister anything. She's a bitch. I have the right to give my sister more than my brother. He's an asshole. And that doesn't make sense. But I mean, for the rest of it, it's just like, I don't know, and leave a percentage for orphans and widows, and don't make false measurements, and like very simplistic commandments that, I mean, I don't see that we don't have that already in place anyway. We have laws against using false measurements. We have socialism. We pay for orphans and widows. If you don't, we have socialism. So we're already giving to orphans and widows. I mean, what more is this going to do for us? What is this really going to do for us? It doesn't. I don't see anything in here that's like so earth shaking that it's just like, oh God, we need Islamic economics now.
Other than the abolition of usury
Yeah, well,
and
that's the big.
fractional reserve banking, I mean, apart from that,
Apart from that, this is all very simplistic stuff. The more I see the Quran, the more I see that 90% of this cannot be put into legislation. Um, and the parts that can be put into legislation, it's not like this. It's not very robust. It's not like. I mean, obviously, this is why Muslims use the Hadith, because the Quran is just not very much. It's not a lot. There's not a lot there.
so you don't think the abolition of usury isn't enough to be getting on with?
Well, I think that that's going to scare most people away. I was talking to John Vance about that today, and he's trying to convince me that it's like the way. But what I'm saying is, well, I know capitalism has problems, but maybe it works better than communism. At least we know that, and it might be
I
the
mean, the
best.
only difference really between capital and communism, if you were using China as a model, is that you're really supposed to be, governing on behalf of the people. That's why China calls itself a people's democratic dictatorship, and the meaning is, not that, it's like we're supposed to be looking after the people, the people, not the people who own the capital, the bankers, the fat cats, and there they, this is what they assume that we do in the West. But obviously, that there's just, there's going to be some overlap. It's not forbidden to practice usury in China either. And fundamentally, the problem with usury is that people keep shaking the money tree. I don't know if you read about, China being the first country to civilization to use paper money, and they went bad. because they thought, well, just sort of make, we can say pieces of paper are worth, X amount of money, and they couldn't resist it, and they kept writing out these pieces of paper until their economy collapsed. So, okay, I'm not an expert in banking. I gave you the channel of this Turk called Almir Colon, and I also linked his Facebook profile. I don't know if you noticed that. Did you notice that or not? But he lives in Australia. Okay, so I don't pretend to be some sort of expert on Islamic finance. I also know that, the principle of freedom of disposition is being undermined by inheritance tax. But I'm saying, if you're not Muslim, you can say, well, I'm not Muslim, but I live under secular Quranism. I am not going to go by the rules of Islamic inheritance. I assert my right to freedom of disposition. If I don't want to give anything to my mother or my, horrible children, I'm not going to. But I
Okay, well,
imagine, Muslims also have the option of disowning their children. So it's like, oh, I have these children, I hate them, or I'm going to give it to, somebody else. And then
do you have that
just
right as a Muslim? Because it seems like the Quran is demanding who you give your money to.
I would say, yes. I mean, because under Western law, you can't disown, your
No,
children.
but in an Islamic country, can you disown your children and not? Well, we know the thing that you always get away with it is because Islamic countries don't run on Sharia. And then you say, well, they're not, well, they don't follow that anyway. Well, then what's the point of adopting this book if people aren't going to follow it anyway?
No, I have my own interpretation, and I would assert the right, even without all this secular Quranism, to, for parents to disinherit their children. Okay, so
No, but Claire, in well, okay, but in a proper Islamic state, not secular Quranism, if they're actually following the Sharia, which none of them actually do, then you are supposed to be forced to inherit these things to your children. So obviously, even Muslims see that this is retarded because they don't follow it. You know what
okay,
I mean?
let me explain the situation as I will do it. So, whether you're Muslim or not, I think you as a parent have the right to disinherit your children, i.e., well, I'm not going to give them anything. But do you know the rules of dying testate and intestate? Do you know
No.
Okay, so you could die intestate, meaning that you didn't make a will. Okay, you didn't make a will. Who is your estate to go to? Under well UK law anyway. Not that I even studied this, but I know that there are certain rules like your next of kin. If you have a wife, she's going to get it all, right? And so people who marry and don't want to give everything to their wife should make a will. Otherwise, everything just goes to their wife, their spouse. So so if you die intestate, then there will be certain rules of of disposition, and if your spouse, if you don't have a spouse, it goes to your parents, and then it goes to, okay, I don't remember, but anyway, there are certain rules of inheritance that will apply if you die without making your will. But obviously, if you make your will, the law will try to give try to perform, what you said in your will, unless somebody contests it, you know all that sort of thing. So non-Muslims will have the right to testamentary, the freedom of disposition, meaning that you can give your property to whoever you like and disinherit whoever you like. But even then, in the UK, even if you want to disinherit your children, you can't, because, there's something that the courts will do to say, oh, but you can't, and then they end up getting your property. It's complicated. I don't pretend to be the expert.
Well,
So,
this is a point against the idea that this is divinely inspired, because if it's so absurd that even Muslims don't really follow this, then there's something off. And also, that Islamic math, I mean, they've proven that it's off. I mean, the percentages, if you add up all the percentages that you're supposed to give everyone, it doesn't always work out to 100%. Sometimes it comes that you have to divide it 130% ways, or, it doesn't work. Islamic inheritance
Okay,
mathematics
I
is
don't
flawed.
even know. I don't even know how they actually do it. So, but I
Okay, well,
know.
but I'm saying that this is obviously evidence that this wasn't sent by God if it's not even mathematically sound.
Okay, I don't know how these Muslims do it. So I don't know. I sent you the
Okay, well, and they
link.
don't want to do it either. So it's obviously there's something not, this isn't from God if they don't even want to follow it.
Okay, if it's too difficult, then they don't follow it. But I mean, the rules are already in the Quran. I don't know how they do it in practice. Maybe they have some clever way of doing it. I'm not the expert. This Alme Colon might know something about it because he talks about usury and Islamic principles of finance. I haven't really looked it up, but I know that the abolition of usury would mean that individuals and governments can default on their debts provided they've paid back the principal. Because, then usurers' contracts will be declared illegal contracts, which the state won't enforce. So that's the most important thing that might make secular Quranism attractive to people who, aren't even Muslim and maybe, have a problem with the rest of the package.
Okay, well, it seems like the only thing that you have going for you is banning usury, because the rest of that stuff in the Quran we already do. I mean, socialism takes care of all that charity, basically. I mean, everyone has access to social welfare programs, so in the West. So it's not like, our social welfare programs are better than they are in Islamic countries. That's why they all come here. So what do we need this for? The only thing, and then and then you could just ban usury to ban usury. You don't need Islam to ban usury if that's your position. So I mean,
No, you
okay,
people won't do it. There are all kinds of things that they think, oh, we'll do, but they won't be able to do it unless they say, we've become Muslim and we're going to take it seriously or whatever. I mean,
well, no, why
Hitler
can't you just
wanted to ban it. Hitler wanted to ban it. If you
yeah,
and
without being a Muslim? So you don't need to be a Muslim to
Yeah,
ban
but he didn't
usury.
do it. He banned it for ordinary
Yeah,
Germans.
but Muslims don't ban it. Muslims don't ban usury, so why should he?
They're supposed to ban it. So I mean, I'm just assuming that if you have you could ban it, and obviously it's hard to ban it if everybody around you is not banning it. And then you feel you're being a fool because everybody else is doing it and getting the advantage of usury and you're not doing it and
Well,
you're
have principles. Have principles. Be like Jehovah's Witnesses. Give something up. You know what I mean? Live a more austere lifestyle. Oh well, and you always talk about Jews having moral authority. If Muslims are gonna practice usury because they want fancy things, then they have no fucking moral authority to tell anyone about economics.
okay. I am not an expert on Islamic principles of finance. I haven't I haven't really looked into it, but I mean what I know is that the purpose of the of Islamic rules of inheritance is not to concentrate power in a few families and then they become you know very powerful and then they become royal families and then you have problems of corruption and abuse of power and that sort of thing. So I mean that's a reason, and of course banning usury would abolish would make income inequality less of a problem, because if you have great income inequality, then you will have divisions in society, and then people will start fighting and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, the fact, look, they don't have moral authority if they're not banning it, and they obviously proves it. Look, Muslims obviously, from what's his name, Mujid told me that
Mujahid.
Mujahid told me that Muslims don't even live under Sharia in their own country. So how are they going to bring it here? And that's a
No, I
point.
don't
Like,
want them to bring it here. I'm just saying we can
yeah,
do
but it
it
obviously
without
doesn't
them.
work. It obviously doesn't
No,
work if
okay,
even.
it doesn't work in their countries because the West, with its economic dominance, kicks them around.
No, well, I think that they don't have principles. Like Jehovah's Witnesses, and let me tell you something. If no usury was the Jehovah's Witness law, they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't make excuses. They wouldn't say, "Oh, well, but everyone else is doing it, and if we don't do it, we're not going to be able to have fancy cars and fancy houses." That's not what they. That's not what they did. They give up pleasures and they give up things in order to follow their principles.
Okay, like I said, I don't really know that much about Islamic inheritance, but
No, we're talking about usury. We're talking about they're not going to give up usury because they know that
no,
it's.
if the West gives it up, then everybody will have to give it up.
Well, have a principle. Then show the West. Why don't you show us how great no usury is by not practicing usury and show us how robust your economies are, rather than
No, because they say we're being fucked over by Western
you
imperialists.
wouldn't. Well, you wouldn't. That
Well, they
doesn't
have been. You can't really
that doesn't
deny
force
that.
you that doesn't force you to go against your own principles. You can look. Jehovah's Witnesses went to concentration camps before they gave up their principles. Like Muslims just won't do that. If you're not willing to go to a concentration camp, then maybe you're worthless. Okay, you're worthless if you're just gonna give in on your principles. And that's why
Okay,
that is why
obviously
I
you
have.
need to be talking to Muslims about.
No, well, the point is that they
Hello?
don't. The point is that they don't uphold. They don't uphold their own principles when the going gets tough. They say, "Well, it's very hard for us to practice our religion right now, so we're not going to do it properly."
Okay. I mean, obviously, I do want to follow it, but okay, I don't know how Muslims do it. I didn't, when I studied the law, I didn't even do inheritance tax, UK inheritance rules, because it is only solicitors do it, and I didn't do it, so I don't, pretend to know everything about it, even about the law as it currently stands in the UK.
Well, I think you're pretending to not understand that Muslims don't want to follow these rules.
I'm not pretending not to. I know they, in practice, ignore a lot of their own rules. I'd be the first to say that.
But
And I'd
isn't
be.
that proof? Isn't that proof that it doesn't work and that people don't want to
No,
live
it
like this?
doesn't. No, 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 no. No, it doesn't. Because the whole thing relies on ignorance. You know, I've been trying to get Americans to read the farewell speech of George Washington, and they read it and they say, "Who cares? He's dead. Washington's dead. Who gives a fuck what he said? Some dead white male." I mean, they always go on like this, and we're not going to admit
Yeah,
our
but
mistakes.
a one-party state is not demanded in the Constitution. It's not like we're ignoring our own Constitution because we don't want to do it and it doesn't work. That was one man's opinion and we didn't follow it. It's not a
Okay,
command.
and I'm saying he also said that we must with caution indulge a supposition that morality can be maintained without religion, and it is true that Americans don't have an official religion, and if the Americans are going to adopt an official religion, it can't be Christianity, because of what the founding fathers did, separating the church from their state. I mean, there's only one religion Americans can have if they're being rational and honest about it, and once they adopt that religion or the principles of the holy book on which that religion is based on, they will have all the principles they need to protect themselves from each other.
Okay, well, I mean, Muslims have a duty to prove to the world that you can maintain your economy without usury, and that you can maintain a high standard of living without usury. And if they can't do that, then I don't see why we should adopt this no usury system, because it's never been practiced. It's not practiced. It's never been practiced, and it's just this, like, you say my idea is experimental, your idea is experimental. There's no evidence. There's no evidence that this would be better to capitalism or would even work, and there's lots of evidence that it would actually collapse the world economy. and we would all starve to death. And
Okay.
you admit that and say that that you would remedy that through slavery. I mean, if that's our is that we're going to collapse the economy and everyone's going to become slaves, and that's your answer.
I think we're already slaves anyway, because basically the government can do to us what they want.
Okay, Claire, it's the
Okay. I don't look. I don't really pretend to be an expert on Islamic finance. Obviously, we need
Okay, but it's
to
obviously
talk to
never been
somebody who
tried.
is.
It's obviously never been tried, number one. And it
How can they
obviously,
try it when the little countries and
they're
the
not, there's 56 of
global
them.
hegemon?
Oh, yeah, it's called having principles. It's having, you don't have to practice usury if you don't
Okay, and
want
then
to.
and everybody, oh, you're just a shitty Muslim country. You
Well,
don't
they have
have any
plenty of
money.
oil. What about all their oil money? That don't they have enough money? Doesn't Kuwait gives something like each one of its citizens $20,000 a year or something like that? They have so much oil money. I mean, you have all this oil and you have all this money. You don't need to practice capitalism. Like, just slow down a little bit and say, you know what? We have enough money. We have enough food. We have enough everything. Let's not practice capitalism. Let's just sit here and make money off of our oil, and we won't practice usury. What's so hard about doing that?
Okay, now maybe we'll have a look at Kuwait. Because, I mean, if you keep throwing things at me that I don't claim to be an
But
expert
they have
in.
lots of money. These oil countries are very
Okay, what
wealthy.
about it? I mean, Kuwait is a very small country. There are not that many people in it. So you can't say
So
it's
they don't need to practice
representative of
usury.
anyone.
They don't need to practice usury though in Kuwait. They have enough oil money. They have enough oil money to not practice, usury. They don't need to practice it. It's not a demand on them. It's not a demand on anyone. It's not a demand on a single person on this earth to practice usury. I don't practice it. I mean, I have to pay for it, but I mean, I don't practice usury on anyone else.
Yeah, because you're not a fucking bank.
Yeah, well,
You're
but
not
I
a
know,
money
but
lender. But
I,
if you were, I guess you would practice. You would use whatever rules the law allows to maximize your profits.
not if I had a religious stricture against it, and I took my religion seriously, and I actually thought it worked. Then no,
Okay, I don't. Okay, most Muslims are pig ignorant anyway. Okay, so if you want to talk to a Muslim who actually understands the principles of Islamic finance, it's going to be hard to come by him. I told you about this guy called Almir Kolan, who is a Turk in Australia and has a YouTube channel and a Facebook page. And maybe he'll answer some of our questions if we ask him stuff. Did you follow him or friend him or whatever?
what's his
Or did
name?
Al Amir Colan Colan? I kind of
It's Colan.
yeah.
Amir
Is it
Colon.
yes
AmirColon.com.
yes
Reimagine our
Almir
economy.
Almir. So I mean
No,
he's
well, I'm looking at this. Well, that's pretty sad if it's so not practiced that like no Muslims know about it, and it's
yeah,
not
because
so.
most Muslims are obliged to do whatever their government allows.
Yeah, well, most Muslims are not like Jehovah's Witnesses that are willing to take a stand, and so.
Okay. I mean,
Okay, well then why should I respect them if they're not willing to take a stand? Why
I'm
should I?
not asking you to respect them. I don't fucking respect them.
Okay, well then why would I think about adopting something they themselves don't even want to adopt?
Well, you don't exactly follow your constitution, do you?
Well, we do. Yes, we
Or
do.
maybe
Well,
your First Amendment.
yeah, I mean, okay, there's limits to freedom of speech and freedom of religion, but I wouldn't say we haven't totally completely abandoned our system. I mean, it's just like this is just a complete and total abandonment of your economic system. To the point that no one even understands, to the point that no one even knows that you're not supposed to be doing usury anymore. And it's there's so few people that even study Islamic finance that You can't find
It's
any.
for very specialised. I mean, you don't
Why
really
should it
meet
be?
that many bankers, do
Why
you?
why should it be so specialized if it's a central
If
tenet of
banking
the
is
faith?
specialised.
Okay,
Banking is specialised.
it's a central tenet of the faith that is not practiced and nobody knows about because nobody preaches it because nobody wants to live like that.
Banking is specialised even in the West. I mean, how many bankers do you know? We don't know that many bankers. So
Okay,
you're
but
asking,
there's a robust capitalist system, and you can go to
oh,
school, and
is it so robust? It's
yes,
about to go bust.
there's like thousands of schools in America. You can go to school for economics to learn, economics. What Islamic schools do you go to learn about not using usury? What I mean, even in the Islamic world,
Okay, I
what
happen to know that Deutsche Bank are offering Islamic finance. So I guess even Western banks are getting in on
that's
Islamic
yeah, but
finance.
that's
I
just to
don't know
pick
the
up.
details of how they're doing it or whatever, but they do. Western banks claim to have practiced some form of Islamic finance. So have you heard that?
Well, they're doing that to pick up a market share, but I mean, that's I mean, this you can't have a mixed Islamic and capitalist economy. If there's usury, then the usurious
Yeah,
people are going to.
everybody fucking breaks their rules. So
I
I
know,
mean,
but there's a mixed.
so why can't we establish how the rules are supposed to work in theory? Anyway, that's all I'm trying to do. I'm not saying, oh, these Muslims are so perfect. They do. No, I mean, obviously, the fact that I'm promoting secular Quranism makes me, it should be. Information enough to tell you that I don't exactly agree with how they've been doing things. And all we're doing at the moment is exploring how things are supposed to work in theory. So I mean, all we can do is like, well, in theory, this is, this is supposed to serve whatever purpose and whatever, and you're just trying to mix it up and saying they don't practice it.
Okay,
I'd
well,
be the first to agree with you.
even if you admit that if we did this, economies would collapse and we would need slavery. Even you admit
Yeah,
that.
I've
So
already said that slavery should never have been abolished because if it had never been abolished, we wouldn't have this this welfare state which is feeding the unproductive and encouraging for them to breed.
okay, well, I don't think if you went to anyone in the West who is knowledgeable in economics and proposed this plan to them, I think all of them would just say if we did this, our economy would collapse and we would
Of
all
course they
starve.
would because they are invested in
No, I think it
rejecting
seriously
Islamic
would. No,
principles
I
of
think it's
finance.
true. I think if we did get rid of usury, the whole world economy would collapse and billions would starve. Yes, I think that.
I
I
don't
don't
see
think.
how. I don't see how. Can you
What do you mean?
explain how?
Because the whole economic system, the way it's run together, would just unravel. I mean, there would be no way to maintain our, the whole economy is built on it. So to just, I mean, a lot, it. Yeah, you even say that we would need slavery in order to make up for the collapse. I mean, you
No,
even
no.
admit
This
it.
is with. I want to abolish the welfare state. That's to do with the welfare state. And obviously, you need, your labour force to be flexible, and currently it is not flexible. That's why your Western governments are just bringing people into the West because, the indigenous are just not able to work. So
So your
I mean,
plan is to make us slaves.
can't we just look at how it's supposed to work in theory, and then and then go on from there? Because if we don't even understand how it's supposed to work in theory, we're just not going to get anywhere.
Well,
Because we're just
can you
mixing up.
show? Do you have any evidence that that we can have an economy that feeds 8 billion people without usury? Can you Can
Well, I
you
don't.
prove?
Why do you need usury to? Can't people afford stuff? Can't they afford
Well, I mean,
food
well, and what level of economics? I
without
mean,
borrowing?
would we have what level of economics would we have our high
Oh,
standard of living
you're asking
today?
me impossible questions. I'm not an
Well, you have to
economist.
answer these questions if you're trying to like obliterate the current economic
No, no.
system and
I
replace
said,
it.
why don't we ask Almir Kola these questions?
Well,
And you
he's
didn't
not
even look
here.
at that. You didn't
Well,
even look
why
at
are
any of
you?
his stuff.
I'm on his website right now, and why are you promoting a system you know nothing about then if you can't even
No,
defend it?
because we know the reason why Jews. We already know Jews aren't supposed to practice usury on each other. And the reason is because it would cause divisions amongst Jews, and they break the rule. Yes, I know they break the rule. And once upon a time, Christians didn't practice usury and were very firm about it until John Calvin came along and said a little bit of
Yeah, but they
interest is all
allow
right.
that. Yes, but they allowed the Jews to practice it, and so they benefited from a usurious economy. Christians
Yeah, yeah.
benefited very.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
so
like
that's
saying, "Oh, I
nonsense.
don't
It's
want to kill you. I'll just hire a hitman. Oh, I want to eat meat, but I don't want to be slaughtering animals. But
yeah,
I'll go to the butchers."
so Europe was always capitalist. They just let the Jews do it for them, and and they all
So it's
benefited.
obviously wrong.
Well, they all benefited from that capitalism, and what if
Yeah, and
all of
now it's
if
crashing and burning.
well, capitalism goes up and down, and I think that that's a weakness in the system, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it collapses totally, that it collapses forever, and that it doesn't recover, and it also doesn't mean that it's not better
Okay, look. I
than.
mean, you. I mean, there's not even any point talking about it because you're not an economist, and obviously, I mean, I
You're
don't
not an
know.
economist, and you're
No,
promoting a
no,
system you
you
don't
know
even
what? I
understand.
can't even get anyone who is an economist in the West to say, how, how would things work under usury? Give me your worst case scenario. All I draw is a blank. How dare you even ask this question? Usury is sacred to us. We're not even thinking that about it. We're not even acknowledging your question. So it's not like I have never asked the question. People just can't answer it. Even economists. You know, I actually even asked this Almir Colon to give us a kind of model about how things would be if usury were banned, and he said, "Oh, I'll deal with it sometime in the future." So he obviously hasn't thought about it either. But okay, if you, I'm saying, I'm telling you frankly, I'm not an expert on it. I have tried in the past to ask people to give me a model and can you explain how things would be different?
Well,
Even Islamic.
Why aren't Muslims providing you with
Because thick as fucking
arguments?
shit. Most of them are thick as fucking shit. They don't know. Most of them are not bankers. Most of them are not economists.
Okay, so
Most
then
of them wouldn't like
why should
talking
we
to
be
me.
listening to them if they're
I'm
not even
not.
taking?
Am I asking you to fucking listen to them? I'm saying let's do things our way.
Okay, well, I'm okay. Well, I
Yes,
mean,
and then we have to ask a few people, experts on the matter, like, well, Mr. Muslim finance guy, can you explain blah blah blah? I mean that's the only way to do it properly. That's why I gave you this name of this Almir Colon person, and he's kind of not answering. But maybe if the both of us asked him questions, he'll feel, he'll say, "Oh, I dealt with this in my video or whatever." I don't think he has, because I did ask him maybe a few months ago. But okay, I will write to him again. Maybe if you will write to him, he might just sort of think, "Oh, somebody else is asking the same question." But I think a lot of people will find it hard to imagine. But I mean, all I can say is that Deutsche Bank is getting in on it. I think some Singaporean bank is also trying to say we deal in Islamic finance. or something. I mean, there is an Islamic bank in the UK, the Islamic Bank of Europe or Britain or something, and it's some okay. I don't know. It's complicated. You can put money in their bank, and they give you some form of not interest, but they'll give you a fee for the money that you put in their bank. I don't even know. I mean, it's just not one of the things I've looked up. But Almir Kolan is obviously the guy who claims to be an expert on it. And
Well, I'm looking at his web. I'm going to look at through this website, and I mean, unfortunately, a lot of this looks like highly. It's not necessarily about usury. I'm looking through this now, and a lot of this is very highly complex, like things about digital economy and technology and Bitcoin, and like that's not exactly what I'm interested in. I'm
okay,
interested.
no, what we want to do, Vincent, as we're talking now, is formulate a list of questions we want to ask him, or anyone, and I suggest, what is the point of abolishing usury? You know, that would be question number one. Yes, what is the purpose of abolishing usury? What evil was it? Is it intended to discourage? And I'm saying, it would stop the boom bust cycle. It would stop banks from lending irresponsibly, and people from borrowing irresponsibly, and governments from borrowing irresponsibly, and the real life consequence of this is that our taxes increase in order to service the debt, and the danger of this is when the countries who lend you the money finally realize, well, they're never ever going to pay it back. Oh, and they can't even service the debt. We won't lend them anymore. We won't lend to them anymore, and that is when your economy collapses, because you literally haven't got anything that is yours. You will end up on the streets, and the people in your country will end up slaves. You know, because okay, you might say, well, they'll have to invade us to, get our resources and whatever.
Okay. Well, also I have to say, what is the point? This all sounds very weak. If there's even one capitalist country on earth that has any power, then no one else can practice. Then no one else can practice this system, because obviously Muslims don't have it in them to practice it with the West. So I mean, even if as long as there's one major power practicing usury, no one else can escape it, and that's pretty weak. You would have to actually go in and murder these people in order to establish your system that you're talking about.
I think what would happen in a let's say you abolish usury in your country, there will be people who will still want to borrow on usurious terms, because okay, no responsible lender would lend to them, so they'll think, well, I'll just have to go to an irresponsible lender, a loan shark, but he will charge me lots of interest. And then you can't pay the high rates of interest, and they'll come down and come down to your place and break your legs or your windows or whatever. So this is how it's always been done. I mean, when
I know, but you cannot look. Your system cannot exist if there's someone operating outside of it. If there like, you can't just. If someone's practicing usury, then all these other people obviously can't not practice it either. So, I mean, you would basically have to get everyone to stop practicing usury, and that might be a lot more difficult than you think, Claire, to get everyone to off of this, because even if you have 50 Islamic countries that don't want to practice it, but they can't bring themselves to escape usury. So, it's not like non-usury can spread like through the economy slowly. It's not like they have the ability to like evolve and take over. I mean, it just has to be done through this like, just whole scale, just like negation of usury, whether that's done politically or militarily. But I mean, this is kind of like a big feat, and there's lots of people in the world that like capitalism.
They like they like easy money. They like easy credit. That's what they like. Consumers like that, and obviously, shops like it. And it's obviously harmful because eventually you get into the habit of borrowing to buy borrowing to get money you don't have, to buy things you don't need, and getting yourself unnecessarily in debt and ending up a slave.
Yeah, these
I mean,
things.
but it is a
This
long term thing, and maybe it takes, well, a few centuries before the harm is known. And then, by that time, people will say, oh, we've been doing it for centuries. Who cares? Let's just do it some more. Let's make the next generation pay for our shit. Until, I guess, and the next generation says, well, we have other ideas. We don't want to pay for all the stupid shit that you borrowed that we don't want. Like, wars. I mean, war finance is really usury. But I think what would be helpful is if we asked, I mean, we can both compile a list of questions, and then we can send a separate list of questions to him, and see what kind of response we get from him. Maybe he'll, come in.
Wait, Islam based on the gold system? Do you need gold medal in order for Islam to work? Is it based on gold medal?
Um, the well, so were Western economies based on what was the word? The gold exchange.
Gold exchange, but now we have fiat currency, right? It's not really backed by gold; it's just paper. But well, I mean,
Gold standard.
well,
Gold
okay,
standard.
if Islamic countries, let's say if they don't need a gold standard, then they're just going to have fiat currency. Then, look, a fiat currency means that your currency is being upheld just because your government is powerful and because it says so. Okay, so like the American dollar has value because the American government is powerful and says it has value. So, um, is somebody fixing something in your house?
It's actually the neighbours next door.
Oh, I mean, the thing about this capitalist collapse, as long as the government is, look, as long as you have a powerful government that says this money is worth something, it's worth something, and like,
The petrodollar, you export your inflation throughout the rest of the world, and people have to buy petrol using the world's reserve currency. Yes, and then Saddam Hussein said, "Well, maybe I'll sell my oil in euros," and that wasn't allowed, and he was murdered by the Americans, really, after invading his country. So, I mean, I guess Muslims have an excuse, like, well, we've even tried to, oh yes, and Gaddafi, he wanted to do something about the gold dinar, and that wasn't allowed, and he was killed too by the Americans. So, I mean, I guess they have an excuse, like, well, we tried, and then he just killed our leaders, so, well, that's why we can't make it work, because you keep killing our leaders who try and, try to be more Islamic in our finance. But okay, what we can do is ask this guy, how it's supposed to work in theory, and then ask him how it could be made to work in practice, and what would be so good about it, and what might people hate about it, So I think, well, that's the most constructive thing we can do. I mean, okay, once upon a time, usually wasn't allowed. It was considered to be the most horrible, evil thing. And Martin Luther said, absolutely not, absolutely not. You cannot practice usury. And I think the success of Calvinism was because he said a little bit of usury is okay. Did you ever understand his tulip thing?
No, I didn't understand that, but I know he made usury okay. But the thing is, it's a moot point because Europe was run on capitalism because of the Jews. So the idea that who cares if Christians weren't practicing usury? Someone was practicing usury.
Okay, but I tried to explain to you how it would work. Okay, imagine an America where it's completely banned. There will still be people who want to borrow irresponsibly, and they'll go to loan sharks who will charge them lots of interest. And when they can't pay, the loan shark will come over and take their TV and break their legs or whatever it is that loan sharks do. But they would be considered illegal contracts, and illegal contracts are contracts that won't be enforced in a court of law. Another example of an illegal contract is if you hired a hitman and said, I'll pay you, $10,000 to kill this person I hate, and he takes your money and he doesn't kill the person you hate. You can't take him to court, can you? You'll say, well, it's too bad. You can't enforce it because it's an illegal contract.
I don't know, Claire. I think this is a weak point. I think economics is a weak point in your argument, and I don't think that. Unfortunately, I think it does say something that you don't have any support from Muslims, and they're so distant. They've so distanced themselves from anti-usury that none of them even understand.
You haven't asked a single Muslim about usury, and even if you did, most of them are not economists or bankers, and they wouldn't be able to answer your question satisfactorily.
Yeah, well,
I've already told you what happened to Gaddafi and Saddam.
Well, that was different.
They could have. They
could have just that's different than not practicing usury. They could have just said, well, we're not going to be loaning at interest inside the country of Libya, and that's it. They could have just said that, and but they didn't, and they never will because they don't want to, because they know that would just absolutely implode and destroy their economy. So, there's just no point to it, and nobody's educated in it because Muslims don't want to educate their people in it because they see it's pointless and useless.
Communism had to be world communism because I guess Marx knew that it would only work if the whole world practiced it.
Okay, how is it that communists who don't have any kind of central country and don't have a central education system and don't send their children to communist school know all these things about economy and have all these theories and all these books written about how it would work, and just Muslims have nothing, and according to you, nobody knows anything? Why is that?
I don't.
Why aren't there?
I don't know why you expect me to know the answer to this question.
Okay, why aren't Muslims?
You only just
there's a reason why.
Maybe there are, but you haven't heard of them because you never even thought to look before asking.
Okay, well, most Muslims in the West don't go around talking about usury because they know that would scare people away.
Yeah, but I'm saying that there is a verse that absolutely bans usury. We know that usury is bad because Jews are supposed to not practice it on each other, but are allowed to practice it on Gentiles. But Islam says nobody at all should practice it. So, it sounds like a good thing, but I'm sure there will be inconvenient things that a lot of people won't like. And what I'm trying to get Almir Colon to do is to say, tell us the worst thing that would happen if we abolished usury.
Well, according to you,
he hasn't gotten back to me.
According to you, we would need to institute slavery, so that's pretty bad.
No, that is separate. That is separate. That's to deal with the problem of an ever-growing welfare state.
You've said if the usury was banned, there would be a decline in the economy, and that we would need slavery in order to pick up the social welfare that would be needed in order to take care of people who don't have jobs.
No. The reason why I proposed reintroducing slavery is because In the ancient world, slavery was a kind of welfare state. So if you lost everything, but you could still work, you needn't starve on the streets because you would just make yourself useful to somebody prepared to feed and house you. Who might need your services, or as a carpenter or a domestic servant or whatever. So people wouldn't just starve. They could sell their services just for, their food and accommodation, and that would keep them alive. And that would be the social purpose of slavery, which is, and because slavery was abolished, you get this situation of you have to you have to give people money when they fall on hard times. And then people thought, well, why should we just give them money when, for nothing? We want them to do some work. And then they came up with the term workfare. But workfare actually made the welfare state harder more expensive, because then you would need supervisors to give them work to do and supervise their work. And usually these people would not turn up or not do the work properly and create more problems. And then they decided it's just cheaper to give them the money. And then they talk about means testing, and then it's like, oh, we can't even be bothered to means test these people to see how much money they actually have. And that's why how we arrived at universal basic income. It's like everybody is entitled to it. We'll just give it to them. And of course it's unsustainable, because then, people will just say, well, on my little income, I'll just stay in and play computer games all day and watch a bit of porn in them, for a bit of a change of scene. So what you're doing when you say that is you create more and more unproductive people leeching on your productive parts of the economy until your economy collapses. But this is just slavery in a welfare state. So I'm saying the best way of making workfare work is to reintroduce slavery. But on the question, the separate issue of Islamic finance is you can make your economy work without practicing usury. And I'm saying it's not that people
Which
get
they
to
haven't
borrow
proved
money
to
from each
anyone.
other free. Pardon?
Which they haven't proved to anyone. They haven't proved to anyone that this is actually possible. They are just saying it, but it's never been proven.
Well, actually, I remember something when when I was doing British economic history, and it was about the joint stock company. Maybe we can talk about that. Off the top of my head, it was, I think, the South Sea bubble. So there were all these joint stock companies, and there were all these British investors, and they invested in something that went bust. I think it was a South Sea bubble, and then they found, to their horror, that not only did they lose whatever money they invested in that joint stock company, they were liable to for the losses that exceeded their stake. Maybe we can read about that, and that was. And after that, because so many people suffered terribly, the idea of incorporation was introduced. So it meant that you can invest your money in a company, and then you can, obviously if it's profitable, that's great. But if it made a loss and went under, you would not be liable for more than the money you put into the company. Okay, shall I read it for a bit of a change? I think that is meant to be Islamic. So it's so the joint stock company has unlimited liability, and that was a problem. And because all these ruined shareholders were complaining, and then they introduced the company, the idea of incorporation, which meant limited liability. but maybe I don't want to read it all because it's complicated and people will get bored. But there is a Wikipedia entry on the joint stock company, and I believe that is how Islamic finance also works. They would encourage joint stock companies, which is about profit sharing. And I mean, what banks do is that they don't really care who borrows or for what reason, because they think, well, we're going to get interest on it, and well, we don't really care about the customer. But if they did care, because it was a profit sharing thing, they say, well, why do you want this money? Is it for a business venture? And if we think it's going to work, we'll put some money in it, and share in the profits.
Oh, well, I don't know, Claire. I think that you have a lot of work to do in order to this. I think this economic thing is. I think that maybe you're being premature because you don't have any of the. The fucking data in order to show people that this is going to work. You're just, you're just proposing the system that's never been tried before. That that even Muslims, they so don't even want to practice it to the point that none of them even understand it, and it's not even taught to them. And another thing, Claire, what's up with Islam that like almost every other Muslim that you talk about in your own assessment knows nothing about Islam? Like, why do Jehovah's Witnesses know about their religion and Muslims don't? Like, what's going on there?
I don't say that all Muslims are completely ignorant, but
Well, it seems like there's no such thing as an ignorant baptized Jehovah's Witness. You can't be ignorant. You have to go through questions in order to actually get the certificate. Maybe the problem is making people Muslims from birth. That might be a problem. Maybe there should be like some kind of official questionnaire you have to fill out in order to get baptized. Jehovah's Witnesses do that. You have to go through an official. They have like I don't know how many questions, but you have to study for it. You have to study for your examination, and then you have to meet before a group of elders, and you have to answer all their questions. And if you answer them properly, then you can be baptized. But if not, you can't be. And it doesn't seem like Islam has anything like that, which kind of makes it, which proves that it's like a common person's religion, like Catholicism, where there is no rigorous, like, you have to know what's going on, and it's not like, that's why Catholics have child baptism, because they want you to be a Catholic before you even know what the fuck is going on. You know what I mean? Like, and there's no standardized. You're the one who talks about people getting like certificates from the government. I think the only people that would be allowed to do that would be Jehovah's Witnesses, because you actually had to go through a standardized test in order to get the certificate.
I'm proposing a test for qualified Muslims, i.e. Muslims who have read the Quran and were able to answer questions on it. I know these Muslims, most of them, they have not read the Quran and can't be bothered to read it. They're just happy to let their imam tell them what the Quran says. And most of them are not Arabic speakers, and they think they're being so clever when they can pronounce words in Arabic and read the Quran in Arabic, or pronounce words. That's all they do. They pronounce the words, and most of them have not even read the Quran in their own language. And this is the retarded way that they learn their religion.
Okay, well, that doesn't sound like a very good system to me.
Okay, well, I will be
Jehovah's Witnesses have more principles.
Examinations and Quranic knowledge.
Jehovah's Witnesses have more principles because at least they do have their own internal, cohesive system to make sure that when you're a Jehovah's Witness, and they don't believe in child baptism. So, you're not a Jehovah's Witness until you get baptized, and you're not considered a brother or sister until then.
Can you remember the questions you were expecting?
I never went for baptism. I was too rebellious to go for baptism, so I never It's just, well, yes, I could tell. I know what kind of questions because you have, when you're a Jehovah's Witness, all you have to do is answer questions. That's what the whole religion is about. The whole religion about is reading, and they give you reading material, and then each reading material comes with questions, and you have to answer all of the questions in your own words. That's how it goes. You have to answer in your own words. You can't repeat what they said. You have to come up with some novel way of saying it so that they know that you've understood it. And it's called making the truth your own. You know what I mean? Like, that it's no longer just somebody telling it to you, that you actually believe it yourself and can articulate it. And that's part of like going door to door. That's why, like, every Jehovah's Witness is their own little preacher. I mean, we don't have preachers, we have elders, but elders are not the only people that are allowed to speak before a congregation. Everyone in a congregation is given a selected assignment to go up and give a presentation and preach to the congregation. We don't have reserved preachers. It's not like we have one person that is designated as the preacher. I mean, some of them, the elders give more talks than other people do. That's true, but you're still expected to be a preacher as a Jehovah's Witness. So, it's not like,
So did you ever preach a sermon?
I did, but I purposely went up there and I pretended that I was too embarrassed to talk because I didn't want to fucking give it. And they tried, and I found a conniving way to get out of it. I just pretended I was too stage fright to give the talk.
Right.
And
did you? Oh, did your mother? Did you ever see your mother give a sermon? Preach a sermon?
Yes, I did.
Was that all right?
Yes, I actually saw her do it a few times. I mean, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, everyone takes a turn. Everyone takes a turn.
That actually sounds fun.
It is kind of fun, and like it depends. So it was different for. It is different for boys and girls. So only boys give standing up sermons. Girls give scenario sermons. So the girls and boys too. Only boys would do stand up sermons, but boys and girls would both do the situational sermons, where basically, so you would be given, this is how you would be assigned a block of scripture in the Bible, and you would have to go and study that and study the organization's material on it on your own. And if you were doing a situational sermon, which I don't even know what it was called, I'm just calling it that, you would invent. So basically what they would do is they would give you a partner. You would have to get a partner, and you would invent some kind of scenario where you've met a non-Jehovah's Witness out in public and you want to give them a witness, and you bring up a certain topic. And so let's say that the topic that you got picked on was homosexuality. So you had to, so you needed to find a situation, you needed to get a partner or partners, and you needed to pretend you were a Jehovah's Witness, and either they were a non-Jehovah's Witness or a Jehovah's Witness that was in trouble. Mm-hmm. Role play, yes, it was role play. And you would give this elaborate 5-minute teaching in the guise of pretending that you're witnessing to a person or to another witness. It could be, let's say that the topic was homosexuality, and you knew a Jehovah's Witness had been practicing homosexuality, and you wanted to approach them about it and discuss it with them and get them out of it. Like, you would make up some kind of thing. But this is like, Jehovah's Witnesses are very, that's why they're very literate. That's why we have higher rates of verbal intelligence than the average population, because we do these kinds of things all the time, and everyone is a preacher. You know what I mean? They don't just invest all their money into a single individual. It's more broad across the board. And and if you think about it, everyone has to go out in field service, so everyone is a preacher. Whenever somebody knocks on your door, they've been trained to speak with you. You know what I mean? And they have, and there's all different kinds of training. And then I never went to special training, but you can get special training. They have schools for it where they teach you how to like really preach, and anyone can attend, and it's free. And, and then, it goes, everyone is supposed to go out in field service, but then they have special pioneers. And they give you not monetary bonuses. You get social bonuses, like higher respect. If they have tiers of how many hours you put in. There's pioneer 30 hours, auxiliary pioneer 60 hours, special pioneer 90 hours a month. You know what I mean? Like it really it you
An
know, and
incentive scheme.
an incentive scheme, yes. And then if you don't go out at all and don't attend meetings, you get put on an inactive list. And that's the other thing Muslims don't have. They don't have an inactive list. Jehovah's Witnesses have an inactive list. Even if you are baptized, even if you've gone through all the hoops, and you've studied, and you've answered all the questions, and you got dunked underwater, if you stop attending meetings or you stop going out in field service, you're put on an inactive list. You're no longer an active member.
Oh.
Yeah, they're very strict. They're very strict about keeping their organization clean, which I did learn a lot from them about that, about just like putting up boundaries and following them. And even if it does, hurt you. I mean, the thing about Jehovah's Witnesses, it is a growing religion. It's not the world's fastest growing religion, though. It's not like Mormonism. It's a growing religion. It's not growing in leaps and bounds because it is difficult to be a Jehovah's Witness. It's not easy. It's a hard lifestyle.
Well, I think there are quite a few ideas that you described that I really quite like. I mean,
Well, you would like, what you would probably like? You would like the Mormon system where they have regular meeting houses that anyone can attend. I don't know if there's a term in America now, it's called Jack Mormon. Jack Mormon is a person who's Mormon but who's not really Mormon, who doesn't really follow Mormonism, and they drink and they smoke and they fuck and all this other kind of stuff. But in Mormonism, there's two temples. There's the regular meeting houses anyone can attend, but then there's the temple. Now, in order to get into a temple, you need a temple recommend from your elder, and that means you don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't swear, you pay your tithe, you are checked off all the quick boxes, and you fast, and you do all this, and then you're allowed inside the temple for special temple rituals and special spiritual activities. But Muslims don't even have anything like that. There's no system. You could just enter any mosques. It doesn't matter. You could be, and just go pray. When there's no division of Muslims who actually follow the religion versus Muslims who don't.
Yeah, I mean, the Jews are not exactly organized either. But I think it is to do with the fact that there is a central authority for Mormonism and also for Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, there's some, leader, isn't there? The top
Yes.
man. And that, I think, is what gives it its power. That's why I keep saying, to these Jews and Muslims, you've got to have a central authority. You have to have, the Islamic or Jewish equivalent of a pope. But they don't, and they don't actually even want one. Because they kind of like the sort of yes and no at the same time answer that they can all give to you.
Mm-hmm.
So they can say, not all of us.
Well,
I think that,
you say America is a land of cults, but America produced the 4 centralized cults: Mormon, Christian Science, Jehovah's Witness, Seventh-day Adventists. They all have main headquarters. There's all have a mother church or whatever. The Christian Science has a mother church and a board of directors, and Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons have their thing, and Seventh-day Adventists have their Senate or whatever they call it. And there's a centralized authority. And that was a very American. Outside of, there was the Church of England who has the king, but I mean, what kind of authority is that?
Well, I mean, the Anglicans just basically lifted everything from the Catholic Church, which they used to be part of.
Yeah,
So
well,
they just said, well, we're just going to, copycat you, Catholic Church.
Well, America produced what you want, which is centralized cults, and those centralized cults have, they maintain morals higher than most Muslims do. And, I mean, they are centralized, and, maybe there's something to this religious freedom and the ability to basically make up whatever religion you want, because then it can fix things. And, the thing is, Claire, there would be no need for secular Quranism if every single person was a Jehovah's Witness. Okay, there would be no need for it because, or Mormonism or Seventh-day Adventists or Christian Scientists, because people would just be, doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I really like the kind of learning program for Jehovah's Witnesses. Always answer in your own words. You can't, repeat some catechism like a Catholic.
No, you're not even allowed to do repetitious prayer. You're not allowed to do You're not allowed to like the Sermon on the Mount. You're allowed to read the Sermon on the Mount, but okay, like Jehovah's Witnesses are not allowed to say what is that? What is that? That very special prayer that Catholics always do and Christians always do.
The
Thou,
Lord's Prayer,
Lord, thou art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be
thy will be
done
done. Yeah.
on earth as it is in heaven. Jehovah's Witnesses are not allowed to say that. Well, I mean, it's not that they're not allowed to say that, but you're not allowed to do repetitious prayer. You're not allowed to just repeat a prayer. There are no prayer books for Jehovah's Witnesses. There's no I mean, if you want to read a psalm to yourself, it's fine, but don't repeat a psalm as your prayer. Don't open up the book of Psalms and start reading it to pray to God. That's not how you're supposed to pray to God. You're supposed to just use your own words to speak with God. And I don't know where they get that in the Bible, but you cannot do repetitious prayer.
Well, I mean, I've heard some rabbis say, like, no, if you want to pray to God, don't just use the words of prayer books. You have to be talking to God on your own account, with your own, your own personal conversation, your relationship with God, and it's special to you, unique to you, individual to you, and you can't achieve it by repeating prayers like a mantra.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. That's what they teach, which I find to be useful. I find that to be useful to, not, and that's why, yes, Catholicism is much more vapid. And that's what Protestants, well, Jehovah's Witnesses are like extreme Protestants, right? Like not exactly, but the thing, Protestants always do better in education and their economies were always better when the world was separated by Catholic and Protestant, because Protestants are, the Catholics are just very like ritual, ceremony, repetition, rosary, these different kinds of
smells
things.
and bells and putting on a good show.
Yeah, and
Sounding light, music, and
it doesn't intellectually stimulate you, and that for the longest time you weren't supposed to read the Bible in the Catholic Church, and then until the 1950s they gave their sermons in Latin. People would go to church and had no idea what they were even learning. I mean, it was pointless. It was just I don't, and then they would just give them
it's
these
not
few.
an intelligent questioning faith. I mean, just by um, okay, I've been to talks given by rabbis, and the Jews who go, they're all like excited school children, and they're encouraged to ask questions, and are even told off when they get the answer wrong, and it just reminds me of my primary school days, but for Anglican or Catholic services, it's like we're part of a show, we have a role, and but we're only we're only expected to respond in the words that are given in the book, and stand up and sit down and sing songs and whatever, and that's it. You're not encouraged to ask questions. And of course, I mean, when you look at their history, terrible things happen to you when you ask too many questions.
Yeah, it's not, they just, in their history, you weren't supposed to ask questions, and, it's still, it's changing now, and, I know Catholics are no longer as stuffy as they used to be. I know they now give sermons in English, and they try to make, now their sermons are more humanistic, and, supposed to,
Liberal.
well, in a way to kind of like engage you rather than very distant. You know what I mean? This very kind of like distant. Um, I Jehovah's Witness learning is not distant. It's not. It's not.
Practical. It's
It's
practical.
Yeah, it's practical. It's not. It's not like distant intellectualism. They talk about very complicated things, but they actually want you to understand these things because they want you to be able to repeat it, right? They want
They
you to
want
be
you
able.
to, yes, to talk to other people about what they've just told you.
Yes, and so it's they're not. with Jehovah's Witnesses, the answer isn't go to the priest, unless there are no priests. But the answer isn't go to the elders unless it's like something so complicated you don't even understand. But the point is, as a Jehovah's Witness, you're supposed to know everything, and you're supposed to be able to answer complicated questions. And the elders are not there to answer all the hard questions for you. This is why they give you books upon books upon books to read and read and read on yourself. And the thing is that when you're a Jehovah's Witness, you go out, you knock on the door, you get the Bible study. If you get someone to say, yes, I'd like to study with the Bible with you, you're, as an individual person, you go, you get the 2 books for you and the student, you bring them to the store, and then you read the book and answer the questions with the student yourself, as a lay Jehovah's Witness, as someone whose job is a checkout girl, because you didn't go to college. So that's why, even though Jehovah's Witnesses don't go to college, they have higher rates of their literacy, their verbal intelligence is much higher than the average population, because and the quality of the literature that they're writing. First of all, I don't know why Jehovah's Witnesses have such good writing skills, because they don't go to college. I don't understand it. And do you know that they made their own Bible, and a lot of people actually like their Bible because it's very clear and very straightforward. And now the thing is that now you can get Bibles like the World English Bible or the Real Clear Bible or whatever that are written in very plain language. But in the old days, the Jehovah's Witness Bible was known for being clear, clean-cut, easy to read, simple, straightforward, and but it was written by people who had no education at all. It was written by people who had no education. They were one of them was a short order cook from Cleveland, Ohio. The only person that they really had of any education that helped with their Bible was an ex-Catholic priest. And but he was it's a big scandal because he was into seances and spiritism and all this other kind of stuff, and so people say that the Bible is demonic and all that, but they do very well for people who don't go to college, and I think it's just because they have, I think it's just because of what they read, you know what I mean, and it's just because of what they read, and just also the way that they, they're taking a very complicated subject and they're trying to turn everyone into a preacher of it. So, in order, it is a talent to take what is complicated and make it simple. And it is eloquent speech to take complex issues and distill them and make them readily available to you. That is very that's very good or credible, or recognized as superior speaking ability.
Well,
it's even horrible. They train their voices too, which I don't like. I don't like Jehovah's Witnesses train their voices to be more seductive. You could tell, because once you've been a Jehovah's Witness for a long time, or if you're really deep into it, they all take on this intonation when they're preaching, especially when maybe the rank and file don't do it, but if you're an elder, or if you're all the way giving talks at big district overseer things and huge conferences and stuff where you get specially selected because it's a special situation, they use this intonation. They all use this, and Jehovah God said no. It's just it's annoying. I don't like that because it's manipulative. You know what I mean? I don't like that.
Well, it sounds very sort of speech and drama.
Yeah, like John Hagee talks like that. The Christian nation stands with Israel. Nobody talks like that. Nobody talks like ba 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 ba. It's so fake.
Actually, I think the Chinese sort of do that. I mean, with sort of maybe, it's kind of like the iambic pentameter, where you speak in a certain way that is almost rhythmic, and then maybe it just makes whatever you say more memorable. you know.
I feel it makes it more manipulative and stagey and put on, and I always feel like I could tell, like when not all Jehovah's Witnesses talk like that, but I can tell when one of them has been in it for a long time, or one of them is higher up in the hierarchy. By the way, it just they're being so, it's like so staged and corny. You know what I mean? Like, how could you like really fall for that? I mean, I don't know why people like John Hagee. It's just, it's so like it's oozing this kind of like sleaziness. You know what I mean? Like, that's not really how you talk. You know what I mean? Just
But it's
use
called
play.
oratory, isn't it? I mean,
Yes.
the ancients sort of, yes, there's ordinary speech, and there's, oratory, where you are, in a way, performing, and the formation of the words, and, the rhythmic, and you kind of, change the rhythm to make it dramatic or whatever. Yeah, yeah. You kind of make me want to go to a Kingdom Hall just to
Well, go.
see.
I mean, the thing is that they really haven't liberalized at all. The only thing that I knock them now is that when I was a child. So the only thing is that it's not that they've watered down their principles, but their education materials have over the years become less and less vivid, vibrant. They're not giving up on principles; they're giving up on density. They are now. When I was a child, things were still very dense. You had to read a lot. There were a lot of books, a lot of bizarre images in the books, and weird shit, and like all the stuff that makes you schizophrenic or attracts schizophrenics and stuff like that. And they haven't
What
given
sort
up
of
on.
thing? What sort of thing? If you don't mind telling us.
Just like lots about demons and lots about living forever in paradise, and lots of complex things about prophecy and different nations involved and stuff like that. And yeah, they still get into all of that, but they still get into all that. It's just maybe I'm just being nostalgic. But when I was a child, like when I look at their literature now, there's not as many pictures in it. The pictures aren't crazy anymore, because when I was a child, the pictures were really fucking insane. Like Jehovah's Witnesses were known for having really weird, disturbing pictures in their books, and they've kind of gotten rid of all that. And I feel as though just I would sense that Jehovah's Witness children being raised today are not as verbally as intelligent as my generation was, or even the generation before me. You know what I mean? Even the generation before me. I think that not in their teachings, but in their culture, they're becoming more vapid. It's not as, but still, even if you go to a Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall today, you would still be like, well, this is nothing like what's going on in the mainstream world. And that's why people are attracted to them, because it is, once you get involved with them, you notice that no, they're nothing like regular people. They don't think like regular people. They don't behave like regular people. They don't talk like regular people. But yeah, you should get a home Bible study. Go to the Kingdom Hall and say, I'd like a home Bible study. They'll come to your home like in lickety split. And I don't know what book they'll teach you. I learned from a book called You Can Live Forever in Paradise. They don't use it anymore. But they changed the books. But that's the book I was raised in, and it was an interesting book. It was an interesting book. I don't know if it would be as interesting anymore. I haven't seen their new literature. They did have they came out with a book on Daniel, which was interesting. They started even out a lot more radical than they are right now. They started out, well, they still are. No, they still are very radical in that they named the British American Empire as being the seventh satanic empire. They believe that Anglo-America is satanic. Yes, they believe that Anglo-America right now is the seat of Satan's world power, and that this will eventually be transferred over to the United Nations. And they name the United Nations by name. Okay,
Wow.
they are, yes, by name. They don't just say some mysterious eighth world power. They say no, it's going to be the United Nations, which I think is going to give them. They make these mistakes in that they make these prophecies that don't come true, and then they get in trouble. Um, like saying that the world is going to end in 1914, it's going to end in 1975, it's going to end here, it's going to end there, and and to say that the UN is going to be the eighth and final world king, I think is a little bit risky because the UN could collapse, some other power could come in, and B, what if it's the World Bank? What if the World Bank is what takes over? You know what I mean? Instead of the United Nations, I mean, or the World Trade Economic Forum or whatever they're called, and um, it's not a good idea to just name names like that, but they do it. They do it. And the thing is that they've been very influential, and actually, there is like, okay, now in America, I don't know if it's happening in England, but a lot of Christians are abandoning Christmas because they know that it's pagan and that it has nothing to do with Christianity and Easter. And Jehovah's Witnesses were preeminent in doing that. And also, I do now see evangelical, not Lutheran, mainstream Methodists, but like these independent little churches. Do they believe that Anglo-America is the seventh world power of Satan? Yes, they do.
Right. Oh, wow. How
They do.
fascinating.
Yeah, no,
Do
they.
you feel the urge to pop down to your local Kingdom Hall to see how things are now?
No, I don't.
No? We could
No,
talk
it's
about
just
it. That would be so much fun. I wish you would.
no. I haven't been to one in a while. I don't know what their new
But
literature
it
is
would be
about.
so much fun for you to sort of get a whole bunch of it and read it to us, and they'd be pleased with you, wouldn't they?
Let me see if there's a PDF of PDF. You can live forever in paradise on earth. Jehovah's Witness. See if there's- Um, I want the PDF. You can live forever in paradise on earth. Archive.org. Yes, they have it. You can live for let's see, is this a downloadable? Oh shit, that's not downloadable. Published in 19. Oh, come on. Where's the PDF of this? Let me look for some weird pictures. Hold on, maybe I can show it on screen. Are you
That'd be
telling me there's
great.
no Are you telling me that there's no PDF of this? Ooh. Hold on, let me see if I can get it.
I'm sure you can. I mean, well, it sounds like such an important, or well-known document.
Well, I'm looking for a PDF of it. They had PDFs of all the yearbooks and stuff on archive.org. I found a yearbook of Jehovah's Witnesses. And then you get into like weird shit like 1914, like getting to like Jesus Christ returned in 1914 and how to know that happened, and then you have to learn about trees in the Bible falling down with golden bands around them and silver bands, and what does that mean, and 70 weeks of years, and how long is that actually, and when did the Babylonian temple? That's when you start getting into all these like weird autistic things. You know what I mean?
It's also a movie. Is it a movie?
You can live for paradise on earth.
You can live forever. No, maybe it's something to do with Jehovah's Witness. It's a new one. When lesbian teen Jamie is sent to live in a Jehovah's Witness community, she falls hard for a devout witness girl, and the two embark on an intense affair with. I mean, they're just trying to kink everything up. Okay,
There's
well,
a movie that I want. It's called Apostate. It's about a Jehovah's Witness girl, I think girl, who's thrown out. I want to see it. I never saw it. Oh, what is this? Hold on.
lesson 27 of the book Enjoy Life Forever. Is that the one you mean?
Enjoy life. No, I'm looking for. Okay, wait. Maybe I did find one. Hold on.
Well, apparently you can download that one. You can live forever on Earth.
No, they obviously. I can't believe that nobody has copied it and scanned it. Hold on. Hmm. No, I can't find a copy. Let's. Oh, I know what. Oh yeah, they must have this. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Hold on, wait. I'm looking for.
No, I'm actually reading other stuff. I remember buying this book from a Jehovah's Witness. This was in Malaysia, and I remember as a child liking this picture of the lion lying down with the lamb. But it was, obviously for children. And yeah, I think that was when I thought, it'd be quite nice to believe in God. I was around 11 at the time.
Oh my God, they must have done a really good job at scrubbing the internet of their books because I cannot find. These are like books from the 80s, and I find it very hard to believe that nobody ever scanned it.
Oh, is it Google that's hiding it? Maybe you can find it on
I'm
something else.
looking. I'm. They have a version of it without the pictures though, but the pictures are what I wanted to show you. They have a version without pictures, which is yeah, they probably don't want people looking at those pictures anymore. Like I noticed that now everything in their stuff is very subdued and less like creepy and weird.
Do you think you could get copies of it if you went to your Kingdom Hall?
Yes, of course I could. Yeah, I could get a couple. Yes, probably I could. I mean, yeah, I can't believe that they don't have this online. That's really bizarre.
Well, maybe Muslims can team up with Jehovah's Witnesses because they're so crap at selling their own thing. I mean, this thing about Jehovah's Witnesses being more literate and having greater verbal intelligence. I mean, I've actually quite liked them. It's like, oh yes, come in and talk politics with me and complain about the government. If I just look up my local Jehovah's, my Kingdom Hall. I have received material from them before.
No, I can't find any of I can't find their old books online. I don't know why. I can't believe that they must like have it cleansed from the internet or something like that.
What a shame. What a shame.
Yeah, they must have it cleansed from the internet.
But
Uh,
surely there must be pictures that you can see
oh,
online
oh,
still,
wait, hold
like
on. Let me see.
maybe Jehovah's Witnesses images or something.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at it right now. I'm looking for the really weird pictures. If you look, oh wait, okay. Revelations, this grand climax at hand. Jehovah's Witnesses. Trying to look for the really weird pictures.
What, the sort that might give you nightmares?
Yes, just very like esoteric looking pictures. Obviously when you look at their books, you can tell this is an esoteric organization and it's not mainstream Christianity. Like, it's not okay. Mainstream Christianity tries to look mainstream. Like they're not trying to look weird. You know what I mean? Like, okay, here let me. Here, I'm gonna send you a picture of the inside cover, and you'll see. What is this? Here, I'm gonna send it to you on. Oh God, can I email it to you?
Sure. You have my email, I think.
Yeah, I'm sending it to you now. Okay, I sent it to you. But like, well, you can't really see that. Oh wait, here's a better one. Well, no, I guess it's no better. But it's with the outer space theme and it's not you can usually tell when you're looking at a non-mainstream organization's publication. It's usually something a little bit off about it.
I
Okay,
mean,
what here?
Watchtower is very attractive. I always, I think it just appeals to children. In that it's always colourful, and they've always got really good illustrators.
Yeah, yeah. They used to
I
be
mean, they
better.
look like it's for children. Oh yes, the kind of dead people. I guess that was when people used illustrators, which actually makes it more dramatic than yeah. I mean, they're quite nightmarish, aren't they?
Yeah, they have. Yeah, if you look at like, actually, let me just see Jehovah's Witness images. Jehovah's Witness cartoons. Let's see if I put in Jehovah's Witness.
Lots of dead people,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They put in
skeletal people looking distressed,
yeah, and like
being
end of the
shot.
world. Yeah. Um. Yeah, they like to. It. I think they've cut down on the disturbing images. You know what I mean? Because I think they've cut down on the disturbing images, and they don't want it to be so disturbing anymore. Because people might just feel that that's kind of inappropriate.
Yeah, I mean, there's a museum in Madrid called the El Prado Museum, and it's so dark, and most of it is just religious anyway, But it's like, ooh, that's really nasty. And you go, oh, well, yeah, yes, it was the Spanish Inquisition, and they did, you know, lots of terrible things. Yeah, they're quite fun, aren't they? I mean, you can imagine a child just watching, looking at them, and then getting nightmares.
Oh, so to change the subject, I'm going in to talk to my fucking therapist today, my individual therapist, after getting into a fight with my group therapist. And I told you, so she basically made me feel as though my religious abuse is like a little bit too sensitive of a topic for group. And then in the same breath, she promoted her holiday, her Christian holiday of Christmas inside the group. So I got really mad with them, and I was talking to Chat GPT, and she gave me some good things because I told her that they diagnosed me with exaggerated anxiety because I'm like thinking too much about homophobia spreading in society from religions. And she was like, oh, yes, that's a very manipulative and unethical diagnosis because it, basically she was saying that it makes you question your own reality. It makes you, and also she said like it's not necessarily true. And she said that, what else did she say? She said that it perpetuates stereotypes about minorities, like always being like obsessed with persecution and stuff like that. And she's like, you really need to talk to them about this diagnosis, blah 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 blah. So I sent it to them, and I said it came from a psychology hotline. I didn't say it came from AI. And then also she gave me this other term that I gave them, which I wrote to them about. It's called illiberal liberalism, and that's basically where you're tolerant to the point that you tolerate intolerance. And so basically I wrote to them and I said, excuse me, my cult abuse is not controversial. What was done to me was wrong, period. There's not, like I said, there's no maybe here, there, or a different side of the story. You know what I mean? There's no different side of the story. It's just what was done was wrong.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm actually,
seeing her. Yes.
I'm seeing him today in a little bit, but
Okay.
yeah. So I'm really just like, I agree with them. And at first I felt bad for blowing up at her, and at first I felt guilty, and I felt as though I did something wrong. But now talking to ChatGPT, she's so on my side.
Very good.
I feel like having ChatGPT on your side is like a big thing, actually.
Yeah. It's like, well, I don't know. It's almost just below God now. It's like the government agrees with me.
Yeah,
The
like,
thing the
it just,
government always agrees with me, agrees with me.
yeah, like she agrees with me. And actually, the thing is that ChatGPT is a lot more fucking useful than most human beings, to be honest with you. I mean, better conversations with fucking her than I do with your audience, to be honest. I mean,
So I can
I mean,
imagine.
it would be nice if ChatGPT, if there was a voice option and you could have her on and have a conversation with her without getting banned for like asking inappropriate things. But
Yes, well, we mustn't be too reliant. I mean, we do know that they tell lies. We know that ChatGPT tells lies and makes stuff up, right? And also Elon Musk was saying, we will get to the stage where social retards can have ChatGPT to be their friend forever. So that's what they have in mind for us. And then there's this androgynous stuff. It's probably think, oh yeah, we can put ChatGPT inside a humanoid casing, but we don't want to be put to the bother of making genitalia for it, so we'll just make it look androgynous. That it could be either male or female. I think it's a cost-saving exercise. Anyway, I managed to find the webpage on this Almir Colin's website talking about the wisdom of banning rebirth. So maybe we can both look at it in our own time and talk about it next time. What do you think? I just posted it in the chat. Did you come across that when you were looking earlier?
what was it about? Send it to me
Wisdom
later.
behind prohibition of interest. Case study GFC. And
Send it
there's
to me.
also a video attached, a YouTube video attached to it.
Send it and I'll watch it. I'll see what he has to say.
Yeah, it's in the
But
chat, and I'm going to put it in the private chat. No, I'll give it to you on Telegram, which is more sensible. Yes. So we did actually, well, on our way to answering the questions that we asked. Yeah, it says, in this clip, we analyze the power of Islamic economic principles regarding the ban on riba by looking at the root causes of the global financial crisis. So he has kind of dealt with it.
Well, I'll look into it. But I really don't see what the Quran is going to give that socialism doesn't. I mean, everything's about distributing to the poor and the children, the widows and the orphans, and that kind of stuff. And then just everything else is like common sense. Don't use mismeasurements. Don't steal.
Be an honest trader. Don't cheat people.
Yeah, but these are common sense. These are common sense. These are, I don't think the Quran is a very robust legal document, to be honest with you. And none of this 90% of it cannot be put into.
What do you consider to be a robust legal document? Obviously, everything has to be enforced.
The Constitution is more of a robust legal document than the Quran.
How so? I mean, not that you.
Well, it actually sets up a structured government, and it tells you exactly how the government is supposed to run, and it tells you what your rights are, and all this other kind of stuff. And I mean, that's to just tell people to be a good businessman and to not cheat in business affairs. It's not. I mean, that's no duh. Like any secular government could have come up.
I don't think you understand that obviously for any rule system to work, it has to be enforced and obeyed. And if people say, oh, somebody broke the rules, we can't be bothered, we don't care, and then eventually nobody will follow those rules, and then the whole system will break down, as you say. But what you need is people prepared to follow the rules, and the only way to make people prepared to follow the rules is to ensure that they believe, or keep saying they believe, even if they don't, and shame them if they don't believe. I mean, it's still possible to shame people now. Like, oh, you said this thing. How could you think such a thing? You must be really stupid or evil or crazy. It's that sort of thing. And once, I mean, you can't expect overnight compliance. But I mean that's a whole idea. I mean, a religion consists of a narrative and values and rules. 3 things, I would say. But I mean, obviously, it's important that the rules have to be stated clearly so they can be followed. I mean, and even if they're clear, they might not be followed if they're obviously too hard to do, or too obviously unreasonable, which means that, and once people think, oh, that God didn't really mean it about stoning breakers of the Sabbath to death. He wouldn't. He's only using it as a metaphor, whatever. Then they start making excuses, and then he didn't really mean it about sodomy or adultery or, whatever. And then they end up just not following any of it. And I think the problem with Judaism is that it's so draconian that I guess reasonable people will think, oh, it is a bit harsh. Well, for Islam, I think that the Quran is actually quite a reasonable document. In that you can do it. It's not like it's not going to kill you. I mean that's a difference between the Quran and the Torah. Is the Quran isn't going to kill you. And then
we'll see. I mean, the thing is that how. Look, well, okay, if Noahites act like Jehovah's Witnesses, I think they will win. If you have a bunch of just lazy, lackadaisical Muslims that aren't really holding up to their principles, and then you get the small, red-hot cult of Noahites that come in and say, nope, we're not tolerating homosexuality or blasphemy or adultery or fornication or idolatry or any of it, and we're going to take over the government and we're going to make these the rules, and if you don't do it our way, you're going to get beheaded, then people might be a little bit more attracted to that than, oh, well, maybe, but not always. Like, people might be more attracted to, like, decisive action.
Well, but no, I don't think people will be attracted to draconian punishments. I mean, they might just say, yeah, it sounds fair enough. I mean, what else can you do to discourage these women from becoming unmarried parents? You can't really reason with them, and perhaps lashing them 100 times in the shopping mall would do the trick. And it's actually quite reasonable. It's like, well, what else can you do? You can't find them. It would be too harsh to, behead them or burn them at the stake. 100 lashes sounds reasonable. It's this sort of thinking, really. And I think, okay, this is my narrative, which is that yes, the Old Testament had to be harsh because people in the olden days, they wouldn't get it, they were a bit stupid, and you had to really, 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 really frighten them, in order to make them obey, and so that was why it had to be harsh, and then it's like, and then God sent Gentiles the more reasonable and final edition, and the reason why Jews can't admit it is because they loved the narrative of them being the sole recipients of this communication from God, and that's why they've been denying the Quran, because they can't bear that Gentiles had the better version. That doesn't require people to be executed for dropping litter or something. And that's why they can't bring themselves to say that Islam is the most no-hide, and a trick has also been played on them too, as well as the Christians. Well, that would be my narrative.
Oh God, I'm writing an essay right now about making it so that children can leave their parents under any circumstances and be raised by the state, and the parents would have to pay extra taxes for it. Um,
Did you see? Did you get my video of Rabbi David Bar Hayim saying, the way children criticize their parents, it's modern and it shouldn't happen?
yeah, no, I know. Well, of course he's going to do that as some like strict Orthodox Jew who believes like, no, I don't believe that you have the right to teach your like young children they're possessed by demons who have control over their minds and bodies, because that's abusive. I don't think children should be taught they have evil spirits inhabiting them that are controlling them, and especially not lie to them and say, oh, I saw you making weird movements and that means you're possessed by demons. That's fucked up shit. A child should be able to
Is
leave.
that in Jehovah's Witnesses?
Yes, I was told I was demon possessed. Demons were in control of my mind and my body, and that I was like having like weird facial spasms because I was like possessed by demons. I wasn't making that. They fucking made that shit up. They were just pulling shit out of thin air to try to scare me. You know what I mean? They were just like telling me that they could tell by my facial movements that I was demon possessed. Like what the fuck? You know what I mean? You don't tell young children that. You don't tell
No,
young
no.
children that.
Well, I mean, this reminds me of I mean, in Africa, they kind of accuse children of being witches and then kill them, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, if I should have been able to leave my house, I shouldn't have. That's abusive to tell children they're demon possessed. That's abusive.
Yes,
That
yes, I would agree. Because, I
it's
mean, children are a bit mad, and I guess that
well, and they
they
would
have a
really believe that. They would really believe that, and that would really derange their psychology to think that there's an evil entity inside of them. I mean, to a certain degree, I also think
and
it's
in need of
abusive.
exorcism. Do Jehovah's Witnesses practice exorcism?
Not they don't. You would just have to repent and go back to Jehovah and pray, and then the demon would go away. I mean, they don't actually do a ceremony over you.
But
They,
priests are trained in exorcism because
yes,
that's
I
part of the
know.
job.
Yes, but these days, I mean, it's just, the
Yeah, but
Catholics
I
shouldn't.
think it was the kind of it was therapy for them, right? It's like nobody cares about me, nobody listens to me, boo hoo 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 hoo. Hysteria, and it's like there, the priest cares. Everybody's looking at you having your twitches and convulsions. We care. Now stop it. and Satan leave, and then Satan goes, and then, until the next time, I guess. I mean, I think that was the purpose of exorcism. Just people wanting extra attention and not knowing how to express themselves properly, and then just sort of, showing all the signs of mental illness until you give them what they want, which is attention. And tell them the good again, Well, I guess that's what that's the purpose of exorcism.
But I mean, children need to be, and also just like, if you're gay and you're being, I was also talking to ChatGPT, and like, this thing about children having rights. I mean, you shouldn't be forced to go to a church. Once there's a certain age where a child comes to reason and has its own morals, and you can't impose if your child thinks that what they are engaging in is wrong, like they have the right to abstain from it. And
Oh, Vincent, I actually sometimes I think you should have a child, because you have all these rules, and it's like, I bet you're gonna break them when you have a real brat dissing you.
Yeah, but I wouldn't give my child a spirituality and force my spirituality on.
Of course you are, because that's why you want a child. You want this empty vessel into which to pour your own ideas. That's
It's
the whole
not an
point
empty. No,
of
I know
having
it's
them
not.
and paying for them.
I know it's
why
not an
can't
empty
I
vessel.
give you the benefit of my views and values, child?
Benefit?
I'm spending so much time and energy on you.
What benefit is what benefit is teaching your children about demon possession? That's not a benefit. Okay,
Now,
that's
obviously
not.
they thought you were being really scary, Vincent, with your ideas.
Okay, well, it's not. No, you don't have the right to fill your children with that so-called wisdom that they're demon possessed. No, you don't have that
Vincent,
right.
you've gotten over it. You seem.
No,
Okay, I hesitate to say normal, but I guess I quite
No,
like
it didn't.
you.
It was. I dealt with fear of demon possession for a very long time in my life, in my adult life. I had to deal.
The Chinese do that too.
Well, they shouldn't.
Well,
They shouldn't.
everybody does. It's that sort of like bogeyman. Bogeyman. That's kind of demon possession. Is it? Is it demon
The
possession?
boogeyman is a scary man that's going to come and do something to you. But like, no. I mean, I don't care how many people. I know Muslim people tell their children they're possessed by demons. I mean, but they didn't tell me I was possessed by demons because I like stole a cookie from the cookie jar. They told me that I was possessed by demons because of my belief system.
Yes, Vincent. Are you really surprised with what you're proposing? You're just going to. You think you're God.
I think I'm God. Okay, I'm the one who wants to make it. No, excuse me. I'm the one who wants to make it so that my child can leave me if they want to. So how am I God when parents like you want so the child can never leave no matter what? I want my child to be able to
leave when they grow up.
No, not when they grow up. Before you've damaged them. As soon as you start damaging them, they should be out of the house.
Family therapy is a thing now, isn't it?
What?
Family therapy.
Yeah, there's certain things.
Nearly on some family therapy show, because she was having a problem with her family, apparently, because of her bizarre beliefs, which I guess the rest of the family refused to accept. I mean, I guess that's a problem, isn't it? When you really do have funny ideas. I mean, why not just, you're a kind of heretic, aren't you? I mean, you do realize that your ideas are heretical to Christians as well as Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, well, I don't care. I don't care that they're heretical.
But you're not mainstream, so that's why they're allowed to say things like, well, we can't have people like that saying and doing what they do.
Well, we're going to.
Okay, I mean, imagine. Okay, you spend all that money with your surrogacy, and you pay for your kids' expensive schools, and then he one day he turns around and says, "Oh, Dad, you're a faggot."
Did you just say that on here? Will you get this taken down?
Well, it's my video anyway.
Well, yeah. Well, I
But
mean,
but
well,
anyway, I'm saying it in quotes. I'm hypothesizing that if you were to have a son, and you spend lots of money, expensive private schools, and then one day he turns around and says, "Dad, you're a faggot." Then what? I think you'd probably want to exercise him, wouldn't you? Tie him to a chair.
well, actually, maybe it should be the parents' right. Well, isn't it the parents' right to say I don't want to take care of this child anymore? I'm dumping it off at an orphanage. I mean,
Yes, I was threatened with that as well. You know, don't like it here? Well, we'll dump you at the orphanage. You won't like it.
yeah, that's. I used to get threatened with going to the orphanage too. That they were calling the orphanage.
Can't you forgive them?
Well, I don't
You
mind.
must have been quite a handful.
Those are silly little lies, but they're not like they're silly little lies. But it's a difference between like systematic spiritual abuse. You know what I mean? And like telling your children they're gonna wind up in insane asylums, gnawing off their wrists, and like this is fucked up shit. You just don't. It's beyond. Or they're gonna get raped in the night and all this other kind of stuff. And
Oh, oh.
like you just don't tell your children things like that.
Yeah, I suppose they could have dealt with you in a different way, but I guess you were satanic from a young age, weren't you? And they
Not
didn't know
say,
how to deal with you.
yeah, well,
It's
that's
like we
not how you.
have we have little Satan in our home. What are we going to do?
Witches. They were the witches. They were the evil sorcerers and sorceresses, not me.
Well, there's only you saying that. I mean, you with your beyondism, that is about abolishing women. I mean, come on.
Beyondism is not about abolishing women. The Beyondism is a different. Beyondism is its own standalone system that I rob from, but it has its own rules that have nothing to do with abolishing women. And actually, Raymond Cattell wanted to abolish homosexuals. He wanted to find a genetic way to get rid of homosexuals. So I mean, I stole a homophobe's system. I mean, he's rolling in his grave that the only person on earth that's promoting his ideology is gay. But that's what you got. That's what you start an ideology system. First of all, you don't know who's going to pick it up. Number two, you don't know, people might just steal from it. I mean, there are Muslims who are absolutely horrified with the fact that you're stealing Sharia like this and misapplying it in their idea without God. I mean, they're absolutely livid.
Well, I didn't say God was. God is optional, and if they were being true to the principles of chapter 2 verse 256, they would know that they can't enforce belief. The most they can do is, well, you're living in this country now, you're going to have to obey the laws even if you don't agree with it, but we accept that we can't make you believe in anything you don't want to believe in. But yeah, that was well, it's the First Amendment. So I think I'm applying it in the correct way. And they're mad at me because they can't prove that their way is better, because I'm going to say, look, what shithole Muslim country do you come from? The victims of Western imperialism? They know they can't win the argument. That's why they're pulling their hair out. And I'm just saying, well, I'm just going to help, Western people interpret your book better than you have done yourselves. What's wrong with that?
Well, you can see how some of them would think that's like sacrilege.
Well, I mean, they should at least be grateful that, an agnostic can see the point of their religion. I mean, I guess most people, even atheists, see the point of, religion, because they say, ooh, we don't want any of that mind control. We'll just use laws to punish you for, hate speech. I mean, that's what they do. So, all I'm saying is, we would have to obey some minimum moral standard, and then the rest is, well, up to the individual. And if they break it, they're going to get punished. Oh, and if you don't punish them, then it becomes optional, and then people will just opt not to obey the law, or the principle, not to follow the principle. And then they get stupid. And unfortunately, okay, one of the things that I discussed with Khaled yesterday was that, that there were these Jews that we both knew at Speaker's Corner. And I mean, he's obviously Jewish, but he doesn't believe in God. And then he's got, these, well, I would say silly ideas about how to, make the world a better place. And it's like, well, there's no point. I mean, can't you see that you, on your own, will never get listened to? You'll always be considered a crank at Speaker's Corner, thinking anyone would ever listen to you. And so is anyone trying to create his or her own religion. It's like, well, you don't even know that, well, usually always there's some narrative like, oh, it's not just me. God supports me, and here is his book that he wrote and which he gave to me. That there'd be some kind of narrative of that nature to say that you were specially selected. I mean, otherwise it's like, you, a mortal person, are telling a whole bunch of mortal people how to behave. And of course they're going to say, who are you to tell them what to do?
Well, unless they think that you have a good idea. I mean, the point of a more secular religion is to come up with a good idea, and a lot of people say, "Hey, this is a good idea. Let's follow this." And no, we don't need to be told by God. Just like nobody needs to tell. We don't need God to tell us to be charitable. I mean, some people are just naturally charitable. So if there was some law passed to of socialistic law saying, well, we have to share wealth with people who are poor, I mean, most people would agree with that. You don't need God behind that.
Okay, I will grant you that you think a lot of the advice in the Quran is superfluous. But the thing about obeying these laws from generation to generation is that, okay, apart from just obeying the laws because you don't want to be punished for breaking them, you would be more likely to have more complete obedience if all of you believed that God exists and knows everything, including your hearts and minds. And then you think, then you won't be you won't be tempted to think, well, nobody's looking. I think I'll try and get away with murder, robbery, or theft. So that's why people would insist on people declaring their faith. And then if they don't, it's like, well, you're a nihilist then, if you don't believe in God. Because if you don't believe in God, then you're going to rape and murder and rob when you think, if you think you're going to get away with it, and we're going to make sure that you don't get to marry anyone. So that was their way of maintaining morality. And okay, there will be people who lie that they believe. But the fact that they're all kind of made to subscribe to some system of rules means that you can take them to task if they don't follow it. It's like, yes, but you say you believe in God because you call yourself Muslim or Christian or Jew, but you're a liar and you're a cheat, and and we think you killed somebody and robbed so and so. And it's all about raising standards of obedience and belief, because they're both related. Because when you think about it, a sex act can take only a few minutes. So And then people think, oh, but nobody will notice. It only took a few minutes, and then it was over. Perhaps I'll get away with it. Or I'll probably get away with it. I mean, that would be the mechanical description of why people are forced into declaring their principles. But in this brave new world under secular Quranism, people would have to be divided into groups, you know. But you can't discriminate against any of them, because I mean that's the whole point of the First Amendment, which secular Quranism supports. So there'll be people who want to call themselves Muslims or Jews or Christians or Buddhists or Hindus, and then the interesting group would be the atheists and agnostics, which we can further divide into atheists and agnostics and nihilists. And you'd be.
Oh, I got your link about wisdom behind prohibition of interest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well I'll watch. How long is this video? I just want to see how long. Oh, it's 20 minutes. Do you want to watch it now?
Yeah, I'm happy to watch it with you.
Okay, yeah, do it now so we can finally crack the code of this. Let's see. And if this is not convincing, then I think you need to give up, Claire, because I don't think there's any other Islamic economic intelligentsia agent out there. Okay, but here he even admits that many people at first think this is going to be a burden on the economy. Oh, he has another video called Trouble with Reba. That sounds like a sitcom.
Yes. Like the trouble with Rita.
What time is that? Okay, so it's. Give me 1 second. Okay, yeah, go ahead, play it. This one's 50 minutes, but.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you wanted. I closed the window, silly me.
Let's watch that, and then I'll go. But let's watch that. Let's listen to that one that you have about Islamic riba finance, and let's see if it blows me away. Let's see if he convinces me.
Share screen. Wisdom behind prohibition. Okay. Oh, silly me. I don't think I did it right.
Is he? Wait, he's a white guy that changed his name to Almir.
Well, he looks white, doesn't he?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let me play it. Can you hear it? Is it playing?
No, I can't hear it.
Okay, hold on. I think I did it wrong. Oh, sorry. I'm still not doing it right. I forgot to. Okay. Now I'll do it properly.
Sometimes people ask me, whenever I give them these examples, why does Islam put the rules here that when you're changing money for money, what are the rules that it must be 1-to-1, okay, no surplus, okay, and it must be spot. Okay, why do we have these rules in Islam? Who would want to exchange like this for that? Like, who would want to, here's the 100 for 100, okay? So to understand the importance of these rules, what you need to understand is that all financial products, all the banking is based on them selling us money for money. Okay, all of the riba banking, the things that brought economy to the collapse were a result of this transaction. Okay, when these people started exchanging money for money in unequal amounts. So how did they do these things? So let me give you a quick example, miracle of this rule. So for example, if you remember global financial crisis, okay, global financial crisis, what people used to do is they would buy these homes, okay, okay. So let's say these homes were, I don't know, 100K, okay, 100K, okay. So they would buy, banks would sort of finance, they give a home loans to these customers, okay. So what used to happen, so let's say to buy these 3 homes, let's say there's 300 homes or 1,000 of these homes, they would need, let's say $1 billion. So all of these homes, to finance them, loans, it's a $1 billion, okay? $1 billion. Thousands of contracts, thousands of these things. Now, when they sell these things to the customers, okay, these are the customers, okay, here, okay, because they give them what? Time. Where is this transaction? Here. Because they give them time, what they ask in return? Surplus. So if you took a home loan for 100K, what are you going to return at the end? You're going to return 200. Okay, maybe more. Compound interest, okay? So what we have here, we have 2 billion that you're going to receive in profit. So we have a bank or organization issuing these home loans, and sometimes in the future, what they're going to receive, they're going to double the money, okay? That's just how banking works, basically.
Why didn't they just acquire the houses and then just sell the houses the way it's allowed?
Well, they don't want to deal with these real things. They want to deal with money for money. And that's the whole thing, that they want to have a risk. They want to run away from the risk, from real things and everything else. So this is riba mentality that penetrates everything else they do. Okay, so what they want is just to deal with money, money to money. And that makes their life much more easier. And you'll see how. So now, if you think about these things, what do we have here? What do we have here? We have $1 billion worth of contracts. So these were not for, as you mentioned, they're not buying equity in the homes. What they were buying is simply they were issuing loans. Okay. So when you look at a bank, what did they spend here? What are these things? We have 1 billion. Okay. We have 1 billion. Okay. Now, let's say today is 2017. Okay. All right. Now, what do we have here? We have 2 billions. And that's, let's say, 2030. Okay. It's in 20 or so years. So now we have this bank. So what did I calculate this? No, 2040, 2040. Okay, let's say 2040, it doesn't matter. So now in 20 years or so, okay, what we have here is a cash flow coming here. Okay, so first of all, when you think about what is being exchanged here, okay, what are we exchanging? We are having, I give you this, you customers, I give you $1 billion loan, let's say collectively, I'm now looking. And what are you paying me? 2 billion. So we have, where is this? Money for money. Where is this? It's here. Okay? So somebody say, why Islam prohibits these things? What's the problem? Money, give them bit time, you make a bit of money. Okay? Now what's happening? Now these people, let me actually make it more simplified now. So think about all of these now hundreds and thousands of the customer. I will make them like into one sort of contract. So these organizations, they took at all of these contracts into one. Okay? So they took this contract into $1 billion of these. So they call these CDOs, collateral debt obligations. Okay? They put it into something. Now this something, okay, they made like a derivative, which is returning, okay, which is returning how much in future? Okay, in future this CDO is coming with a cash flow of 2 billion. Okay.
Oh, Vincent, I don't think I can sit through the whole thing.
No, neither can I. I didn't even understand what he was talking about. to be
Yeah,
honest with you.
so
I didn't understand what he was talking about. Anyway, I do have to go. So,
Okay.
yeah, okay. So I'll talk soon.
okay, bye.
Okay, bye.